Retro.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Devil's Digest pregame show as Arizona State gets set for its first road trip of the season, heading up to San Marcos to be hosted by Texas State. My name is Justin Lestertosa, and alongside myself, as always, is publisher Hode Rubino. And Hode, ever since this game was marked on the calendar for ASU, a lot of fans and media have sort of called this the trap game, and players have sort of heard that as well. Cam Scatterby talked about that at Tuesday's practice. And not only is this going to be a physical test, it'll also be a mental test as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that when you talk about Kenny Dillingham already tapping into that mental game, if you will, he called his team an underdog, even though technically in Las Vegas they're a 1.5 point favorite. So not exactly an underdog, but I think just really instilling that mentality in his team is definitely a good approach to take. They're playing a Texas State team that is coming off a huge 39-point win over their rival to Texas San Antonio. So they're obviously coming with a lot of confidence. And Kenny Dillingham said that this game on Thursday is really their Super Bowl, so to speak. And you also have a 5-day turnaround, which is obviously going to be harder on the road team, in this case ASU, compared to the Bobcats. And I think it's also a matter of how does ASU handle success, because we saw them really never take their foot off the gas pedal against Wyoming. From start to finish, total domination. Then the first half against Mississippi State takes place, and you really see more of the same. But the second half, as you know, against the Mississippi State, it definitely was a lot of white knuckle moments, if you will. A lot of things did not go as smoothly at all. And if it wasn't for some late important drives by the offense and the defense later in the game, Arizona State might be having a total different vibe right now. So I think also maybe Kenny Dillingham was really tapping into that. Can this team really handle success? Because that might be a huge TBD. And sure, maybe that's one of those questions you really don't have an answer for after week 2. But so far, when you look at the body of work, it still really is an incomplete picture. I think that's really one thing, and going back to the mental aspect, ASU has really prided itself on great team culture, on great chemistry, something that's been built not only in the summer, but really ever since the spring. And when you go on the road, Justin, it's really you against the world. All you have is each other. And this is where, when you talk about the team chemistry really being a positive effect on and off the field, I think it shows up even more when you're on the road rather than you're playing at the comfort of your home. So I'm really curious to see how much of that aspect does help the Sun Devils, because if this team culture and team chemistry is as strong as we think it is, I think it's something that's really going to show up on the scoreboard in this very challenging road game.
Yeah, and last Saturday against Mississippi State was the scat attack, as people are calling it. 262 yards, 33 carries for Cam Scatterby. But the passing game has also been a focal point in conversation. Sam Levitt and the receivers not really lighting it up in that regard. And this is a Texas State team, a Group 5 opponent, but no slouch nonetheless. And they bring that same defensive intensity and grittiness that ASU sort of has. So what do you sort of expect to see out of ASU's offense, and do you expect more out of the passing game?
Yeah, I think it's really going to be an interesting matchup, because Texas State is a very stingy defense. Again, there's only 2 games in the books, but for what it's worth, they're averaging as a defense 18.5 points yielding, 66 yards average on the ground, but in the air 244. So to your point, Justin, is this going to be an opportunity for the passing game to really kick it up a few notches, maybe alleviate some of the fears that I've been reading online from ASU fans? We'll see. Kenny Dillingham, to his credit, said, "Look, I mean, there's no doubt that Sam Levitt did miss some throws that he should have made, but I think the over reliance on the rushing attack, and you just presented those eye-popping numbers, I think really took Sam Levitt in the passing game out of rhythm. And that's something I don't expect to happen each and every time. And just by me telling you the stats, where the weaknesses and the strengths of this Texas State defense lies, I think it only stands to reason that ASU does see this game as a good opportunity to really get the passing game reignited. It played great against Wyoming. There's no reason why it cannot play just as well against Texas State tomorrow. I think another thing also to keep in mind is that, look, when you talk about everybody watches the same tape, the Bobcats have seen this rushing attack from ASU. Trust me, you're not going to see them dropping into Tampa 2 coverage, just daring ASU to run on Thursday. It's going to be quite the opposite. So it's really going to be one of those situations where I don't know if they're really, daring ASU to pass, but they definitely want to stop the run, the first and foremost. So that can also present opportunities for the Sun Devils. This Bobcat defense is very opportunistic, but also over-aggressive. Yes, they have 9 sacks so far in 2 games, but the fact that they're yielding 244 yards just shows you there really are some opportunities to be exploded with that secondary. So if you're looking for a game for the aerial attack to really get on track again, I think this does present a good opportunity. But I'm also curious to see how much they really scale down the rushing attack, because this is a very dangerous offense they're going to face. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And just like I talked about this time last week about maybe playing that quote-unquote keep-away ball, so Mississippi State and their explosive offense is spending as least amount of minutes on the ground as possible, and that's achieved obviously by having a very strong run game. ASU did masterfully in that category, over 40 minutes of possession. I don't know if they can really come all that close in this contest, but if they can win that battle of time of possession, knowing that they're facing a very strong Texas State offense, I wonder if we're going to see maybe not the eye-popping numbers that we saw from the rushing attack last week, but still pretty heavy reliance on that aspect. So that's going to be a really interesting matchup, I feel, in that regard.
Yeah, and you just touched on the offense of Texas State. Very well balanced, both in the backfield and in the passing game, and an experienced QB, and this could arguably be ASU's biggest test to date. So what do you sort of expect to see out of Texas State's offense, and how do you expect ASU to respond to what they bring? Yeah,
Kenny Dillingham, again, you can talk about coach speak and playing the mental games, but he said this is the toughest team that ASU will face so far this year. And when you look at the numbers on offense, again, you can talk about the caliber of opponents. Yes, they played quote-unquote only Lamar and only Texas San Antonio, but they're averaging over 290 yards passing, just over 204 yards rushing. So this is an offense that definitely has a full attention of the ASU defense, a defense that definitely wants to atone, I think, for what happened in the second half against Mississippi State. And I think maybe not talent-wise, but I would say just potential for an explosive offense. There are similarities between Mississippi State and Texas State. You also look at the quarterback, Jordan McLeod. I think he is a true dual threat quarterback that definitely can sling it out there. Again, maybe not a whole lot different than Blake Shapen in Mississippi State, who played here last Saturday. Jordan McLeod is the reigning Sun Belt Conference Player of the Year, but actually achieved that at James Madison. And check out his numbers. He was only one of 4 quarterbacks in the FBS level last year to pass for over 3,500 yards and 35 touchdowns. The other 3 quarterbacks, you might ask who they are? All of them rookies right now in the NFL. Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, Michael Penix. Quarterbacks that ASU fans are very familiar with for one reason or another. So this definitely is a very, very capable quarterback, and he really has picked up where he left off so far, averaging 273 yards passing. So I think, and Kenny Dillingham also mentioned this, when you're going to play defense against a quarterback like that, you really, I don't think, can get too cute with coverages, because he's really a quarterback that has been there, done that, a signal caller. And it's really going to come down to how many times can ASU just present one formation that right after the snap becomes a total different formation and really disrupts the passing game. I don't want to suggest that ASU is really going to be content shutting down the passing game and to take their chances with the run, but it's hard for me to see ASU prevail in this game if that passing game for the Bobcats is not slowed down quite a bit, because again, they do have a very good quarterback there behind center. And again, I think the ASU defense, much like the offense, if you want to be fair, definitely do want to maybe take that bitter taste out of their mouth that was the second half performance against Mississippi State. And I think just to start out strong but also finish strong on Thursday is definitely going to be on the minds of the Sun Devils.
Yeah, and we mentioned this is a very tough matchup. Kenny Dillingham himself said the toughest of the season so far, and not just because of this Texas State team being one of the higher level power or Group 5 teams, but also because the 5-day turnaround, first road trip of the season, guys might be a little bit gassed, intensity might not fully be there, but Dillingham and company trying to rally the troops on this road trip. So with all that in mind, what do you sort of expect to see out of this game holistically?
Well, just going back to our earlier point about the mental preparation, I think this is definitely a game where the mental preparation is going to be more important than the physical preparation. As you said, when you have a 5-day turnaround, it's not like it can run really physical, intense practices between the last game and the next game. Now, this does not suggest that ASU is really coming in lackadaisical into this contest by any means. But I think the mental preparation is something that really has to be at its highest level, at the highest effectiveness for ASU to win this game. I feel that when you look at anytime you play on the road, and especially when there is a talent disparity that's in favor of ASU, it's really going to come to the intangibles that are going to decide this game. When you have turnovers, when you have penalties, when you have poor special teams play, that is something that you can sometimes get away with it at home, but it seems more often than not when those aspects do reveal themselves on the road, that can spell a lot of trouble. So I think for ASU to keep it really turnover-free, they really need to cut down on the number of penalties. And Kenny Dillingham, by the way, agreed with me that there were some interesting penalties, as he phrased it. So maybe it really was an aberration what we saw against Mississippi State. Special teams, I think, coming off a very, very strong performance, and I think ASU is going to need that group once again really to be on top of their game, because again, those are just the quote unquote little things that make all the difference when you're on the road and a lot of elements are against you. And again, a 5-day turnaround is something that college players are really not used to all that much, and also a challenge in that regard. So I think another very close game is awaiting Arizona State, but I do feel the Sun Devils can finish their non-conference slate at 3-0. I'm predicting Arizona State to win this game 33-24.
Yeah, Houghton, we remember the last time ASU started 3-0 in the non-conference, 2019, got that huge win at Michigan State, and we all know how that year turned out to be one of the better years, at least in recent memory, for Arizona State football. But for all the pregame, in-game, and postgame coverage, go to DevilsDigest.com. Follow Devils Digest on Twitter at Devils Digest. We'll see you guys after the game.